Destroy the child. Corrupt them all.
That's what happens when you put price controls to help the poor. That's what they do. That's what happens. You can't just artificially make things cheaper, because the first ones there are going to gobble it up. You can't play with supply and demand like that. You have to let market forces work. It will work in the beginning, but then you're going to drive away any incentive for the producers that are making the product or service to continue to do business. If they're not making a profit, they're going to go elsewhere. You can't just give things away and make everything free. You're going to run out of other people's money. And you can only bleed the oil revenue for so long. When they go down, everything goes down. You have to have decentralized wealth. And that's not to say that capitalism doesn't also have problems. But those are the kind of problems that communists and socialists would love to have. Too many people with too many big houses, things like that. We have too many brands of cereal. Oh, the consumers are fighting on Black Friday over PlayStations and stuff. Those are problems that socialist countries would love to have. Because the kind of problems they have are, we're eating our pets because we have no food, because agribusiness has gone in the toilet. The mercantilist policies, the worst things in capitalist countries, all involve the government. It's when they move away from the free market and go towards socialism. Except the socialism there is corporate welfare. It's socialism for the rich. You shouldn't have the government picking winners and losers in the marketplace. And that's what happens, whether it's bank bailouts. Who bailed them out? Government. And the Fed, which is quasi-government. It's not private or public. It's its own ordeal. But it got its powers, its regulatory capture through the government, through Aldrich in the Senate. It was created like that. Who is giving no-bid contracts? The government. Who's waging war? Government. Who's sending billions of dollars out in foreign aid? Government. Who's doing all the farm subsidies? The government. Any subsidies, it's government. All the things that you hate capitalists for involve the state. Whether it's corporate favoritism, corporate welfare, warfare, bailouts, etc., all the things you don't like, the foreign aid and the sanctions and things that's all instituted by government. Predatory loans were done by banks, but on a global scale, when the IMF, etc., are going and loaning to some African nation, who's accepting those loans? Their government is. And when they make that bad loan, it drives the currency into inflation and wrecks their economy. Government should not be deciding such things. If a business took out a bad loan and didn't pay it back, they go out of business. When the government does it, the whole country suffers. Government should not be involved in the market. Government should provide a court system, maybe postal service, and a common defense, and that's about all they should do. They should be in charge of nothing. I wrote a book about this stuff, The Separation of Business and State, which goes over all the problems you see in the first world. But if you want to look at problems in the third world, every single time it's central planning and bad government. That is the difference between North and South Korea. There's no racial difference, there's no language difference, there's very little resource difference. The difference is how they govern. In communism and socialism, they don't work. There's no incentive. Look at the welfare system in the United States. If you can get unemployment and get the exact same earnings as you could working minimum wage, yet have all your leisure time, why should you work at all? And they don't. When you subsidize something like broken homes, you end up with more of it. And it cannot go on indefinitely, because you always have to take from the productive sector to give to the unproductive sector, which just incentivizes more people to not be productive. It's a ridiculous system. Socialism is an answer to nothing. You can look at other countries and you can look at history. It always fails. You cannot point to any existing good example of communism and they go, oh, that's not real communism. No, it is. That's what really happens. The government is not benevolent. They're not there to redistribute wealth to the poor, and that doesn't work anyway. And what they end up really doing is redistributing wealth to themselves. It's full of nepotism and corporatism, and that's what happens when you let the government pick winners and losers in the marketplace. They pick themselves, and it's just a big rotating door. They always do that, and those are problems we need to fight. We need to constantly be fighting to maintain a free market, as free as possible. And we need to fight this corruption and cronyism everywhere. But boy, the answer is not to go full retard in the opposite direction, where you give the government complete control, which is what communism is, which makes even more cronyism. I don't know why that's so hard for people to understand. Read some Thomas Sowell, read some Ron Paul, read about Austrian economics, and get a grip on reality. These college students today, they're so addictive, they're ismaholics. They can't even tell you how many genders there are. There are 2. They're denying biology for the sake of virtue signaling. And then you want to talk economics to these people? I mean, they can't even get basic science down. So it's kind of a lost cause. Cultural Marxism might as well be a disease.
Make fun of me all you want. This is their plan, people. They're frickin' interdimensional invaders. Am I blind?